Hey guys, so we're back with part two to my American Horror Story video. Now, this time I really want to talk about something that was really playing in the back of my mind. Now, we know that from the first time we saw American Horror Story Coven, the third season, we knew this season was going to be something memorable. From the cast, from the way that the show was planned out, it was something spectacular. We even have some of our favorite characters came out from that, and we have some of the greatest lines from this season. We saw Frances Conroy play as Myrtle Snow, which is one of my favorite characters besides Jessica Lange and Sarah Paulson's character, play for as Cordelia, as Fiona's daughter. But this season itself and how it paid homage to a lot of other horror elements, and that it's one of those big three seasons that paved the way for other seasons. Like season 3 was so successful that still this day people rank season 3 as one of their favorites, because not only it was dealing with the Coven, which was a group of witches that were a descendant of the Salem witch trials, but Ryan Murphy stated that Coven is his favorite season in a way where he's so fascinated about the lore of the witches and how the universe in a weird way surrounds that season, because there's so many things that we could do for this season. Because even back in when I was watching it back in 2013 and 2014, that we never thought the season was gonna end because it was so good. Like, it was so good. That was probably one of my favorite seasons. And second comes with I would say second for me would be Asylum and Murder House. For fourth, I think I got Apocalypse up there very high, because Apocalypse as well as Coven connected the season so well, and there were so many different elements that came in. So upon watching season 11 and that Ryan Murphy, I remember he mentioned that in some weird way the witches will return, but in the near future. It would be not just a surprise or fitting to me that the season that the witches could come back in will be the 13th season, which 13 match with some horror elements number and is witchy number. That would be very cool to see that, and that the season might air on October 13, 2024, which will be insane because it will coordinate with 13 as well as, or it could be happening next year, which will coordinate with 23, 13, and 10, which will be a very witchy number, you could say. But the season has captivated so many fans, and it had me puzzled in a way where making this video from Apocalypse to Murder House to Coven, and how they even try to combine those two seasons into Apocalypse, where we could have saw what they were doing. I felt like, in my opinion, if they could have flushed out Apocalypse a bit longer, like 13 or 14 episodes, it would have been perfect for me, because they had everything that they had to make the season even more perfect as it is now. And to even bring back Stevie Nicks, which is one of those names that doesn't really need an introduction. It's pretty cool to see what they were trying to do at that time back in 2018 as well as 2013. So upon my researching and how Ryan Murphy said the witches could come back in a future season, it could entail that we may have more season than 13, which means if it goes up to even season 20, which will be shocking but exciting, but 13, it could be a perfect time to bring back the witches and what other connection they could have, because I think the universe of the witches are so large, and that we have so many different witches with so many different powers, and how I don't think, that's another question that the season Coven left unanswered. Is the main Coven that we see is the most powerful Coven? Because I remember the promotional trailers for season 8 was showing that there was a good side and there was a bad side, and one side will take the power of the good side and therefore ushering the apocalypse. But we end up knowing the counterpart to the witches and apocalypse was that it was the warlocks, which that's another thing I would love for them to expand on, which give a season that's similar to the warlocks. And that was another, to apocalypse, because that was a thing that never brought up again, that we know the levels now, the certain levels to the hierarchy of the witches. A 3 or a 2 or even a 1 or like teachers or counselors or like a high chancellor, whereas the supreme is a 4. And as you mentioned, Michael Langdon, spoiler alerts, is a above a supreme. And they even mentioned when they dropped the Easter egg that the supreme is the most powerful witch, and every generation there's one that has, how it goes, one has mastered all the wonders, and therefore that makes them the supreme. And our current supreme is still unanswered, because we know that Mallory went back in time. She changed a couple of things around, and that thus going back in time, which means that that's the time where Cordelia is still the reigning supreme, which because of the power that Mallory has, it kind of overwhelmed the status of where a supreme should be. Because if she gave back, it goes to show Mallory's probably the first supreme that gave back her powers to a previous supreme, thus reverting her back to like a regular witch. Another thing that they could have, I think they should add for future season, if they are planning on bringing the witches back, is that what is the corresponding between a alpha and a supreme, and how come we haven't seen? Because it says that, like Myrtle Snow said that, she stated, alpha is a myth. There will never be a male supreme, but they even thought a male supreme was Michael Langdon, but it wasn't. But what if maybe in the future season they do end up having a male supreme? Because I even thought back in season 8 that Timothy was the male supreme, and that he was going to be the hero to the coven, but it actually didn't go that way. He was one of those plans for the devil to recreate his plan to cause the next apocalypse, which would be very fitting if they named the next season Annihilation or Origin or even Omen. That would be very fitting for those names. But yeah, I would love for them to focus on a season of all the past Supremes, or even give like a timeline of how powerful these Supremes are, because we know that even though you gained the 7 wonders powers, we also know that each Supreme had a unique power that's pertained to them only. Like Cordelia had the power of the sight by losing her eye vision, but when she became Supreme, she gained her sight, but she didn't lose the power of the sight. So she could foresee the future. Mimi the Lamprey, I think they mentioned that she had a power of great ascension, where she could be 2 places at the same time. And then we know Fiona had the ability to literally have the counterpart to Vitalum Vitalis, where she could literally suck up your whole life force into her. We even saw that in the first episode of the Coven, which is titled Bitchcraft. So it is very fitting that to see all these acclamation of supreme powers, and that we even saw in season 8 that Mallory has the ability to control or alternate time. So going back to the Lady Gaga's character from Roanoke, we could indicate that because she's the first Supreme, she could have all those acclamation, because her abilities and her lifespan predates everything in American Horror Story. So, like I said, what would you guys think? I will leave a little cliffhanger. Like, do you guys think the 13th season is fitting for the Coven to come back in such a big way, or should they make the season longer if they're doing a spin-off of Coven or Apocalypse? Because that would be very cool to have a season that mainly focus on the Warlocks and the couple bit, because they do have their counterpart to the Seven Wonders. We even saw that being performed in the season 8 Apocalypse. But like I said, guys, you guys could definitely put the comment down below. I always read my comments of what brilliant ideas that you guys have, because I think that's something that we should definitely take consideration of, the lore and how big the season Coven is, and how they could create spin-off after spin-off for each character and origins after certain Supremes. That would be something that I think not only I would be interested in, but I think you guys would be interested in it as well. Furthermore, I will be continuing my next video, which will be talking about season 1 House of Dragons, which I definitely did mention that I was going to be talking about that. So if you guys are interested about Game of Thrones and future seasons of what the return of Game of Thrones may be, you guys could definitely subscribe, and I'll definitely see you guys in the next video. I am Rudy, and I'm signing out.